Nendra hated farming. It was all robotics, automation, genetic engineering, micronutrient dispenses, and interstellar market speculation. Boring. You needed like 6 degrees just to be a farmhand on Harlos. No thank you. She longed for the simple life. A life of towering buildings, extensive shopping malls, plays, art, and people. Oh, how she longed for people. Growing up on one of the hundreds of thousands of homesteads dotted across Harlos, she had spent her life with her family and a collection of farmhands. Her family were nice and all, no traumatic upbringing stories of which to speak. But after 18 years of pretty much only her father, mother, and younger brother, she needed a break. Time to find herself, to explore the planet and maybe the wider diaspora. An autonomous vehicle rolled down the gravel road towards the farmhouse. The silver vehicle had an odd cross-section, a tall modular-style A-frame design with comparatively small compact wheels. Nendra picked up her duffel bag from the ground beside her and slung it over her shoulder, flicking her long purple hair out of the way of the strap. She hugged her parents tearfully, and even her brother returned her embrace, begrudgingly at first, but then it lingered longer than she expected. She smiled. She would miss him too, even if it would go unspoken. Then, with a wordless goodbye and a final wave, she stepped into the car and slowly drove away. The car followed the gravel road of the farmstead, the 3 miles to the outer gate, and crossed the threshold into the vast open expanses of the fields. The angular vehicle continued its journey along crude but functional tarmac roads, before turning to run in parallel to a set of 12 parallel rail tracks. As the car trundled forward of its own accord, Nendra peered out the window. Her mind was lost in the reverie of what was being left behind and in contemplation over the potential opportunities that awaited her. As she did, her eyes scanned across the endless fields arrayed before her, the vast canvas of the world painted in a swath of yellows, browns, and tans. Dominating over 90% of the planet, tall stalks of perfectly planted fields of engineered cereal crops swayed in the gentle breeze, optimally watered by rain clouds induced by the networking of orbitable climate-controlled satellites. The fields were so expansive that the planet itself had a golden tinge from orbit, a fact reflected in the planet's emblematic flag. An exorbitantly expensive yet perfectly terraformed world, Harlos had long been critical to the compact's internal security, ensuring no person went hungry. Of course, for Nendra and the other residents of the planet, hunger was what happened when you waited too long for second breakfast. She understood concepts of famine, of course, but they were just that. Concepts. The car slowed and Nendra's windscreen HUD indicated that the vehicle was shifting to AG Lev mode. As it crossed onto the tracks, the tires retracted and several small micro AG dispensers held the car aloft, while a central electromagnet anchored the car in place above the track. And then, it began to accelerate. Gone was the slow, meandering pace on the rudimentary roads, replaced by unnatural speed. Nendra felt her body pushed back into the comfortable and supportive seat as the worst of the G-forces were buffered by the car's AG field. Within moments, the car reached 150 miles per hour, yet it was not done. A second warning alarm blinked to alert Nendra to the upcoming merger. She brought up the live orbital feed and could see that several miles behind her on a parallel track was a high-speed levitating train, comprised of well over 400 individual cars shaped just like Nendra's. Her car continued to accelerate, exceeding 200 miles per hour, then 250. It was, however, far slower than the oncoming train, which itself was beginning to pull back from near 80% of the speed of sound, seemingly to match her sudden arrival. As the train approached, Nendra noted on her HUD that a split had formed in the middle of the train, dividing into fore and aft sections. Within moments, the first part of the train bulleted past her car on the adjacent track. Nendra's car accelerated once again and, within moments, had reached over 300 miles an hour just in time to merge with the now split train, veering to the left and sliding into the midst of the break. Nendra felt only a minor jostling as her car physically merged with the forward and rear parts of the train as if a heart of a great serpent. One moment, the car was a separate vehicle, and now it was part of a greater whole and was already accelerating rapidly back to top speed. Nendra placed her hands on her lap as the internal seats of her car began to automatically reorient, configuring themselves into a window-facing lounge with a small desk and screen, leaving the other side of the car to serve as a corridor. And as soon as the forward and rear walls of the car retracted, Nendra's previous solitude was broken by a dozen or so people suddenly walking through her car on their way to the communal carriages that anchored the train. Her fellow passengers were all waves and smiles as they passed by, as was the custom when passing through a newly merged autocar. Nendra didn't mind. It wasn't her first time on a train, but it was far from a common occurrence for her to be around so many people she didn't know. She glanced up and down the length of the train from her seat and could see hundreds of other passengers, chatting, working, or simply lost in the view. For a moment, a wave of social anxiety swept across her, but she let it roll over her mind and body, embracing the communal nature of the setting to help acclimatize her for the adventure ahead. This was what she wanted, she reminded herself. People, adventure, excitement. As she looked down the open corridor, Nendra noticed several people gesturing out the window. She turned and across the endless fields, she caught the first glimpse of towering spires of glass and iron and crystal of the city of Bern, regional capital and her destination. The city spires glinted in the bright mid-morning sun. It was as if the reflected light was the beacon calling her forward, calling her home. She smiled to herself, excitement replacing the anxiety of moments before. She had no doubt. Adventure awaited her.